And here we all are, all with cycling or Mick in common. And Mick would not believe for a minute that you had all gathered here in part to remember him. My dad was the most modest man and unassuming man you could hope to meet. He would never have thought that so many people would give up part of their Friday evening to protest at the way in which he died. Nor would he ever have thought that so many people would give money so generously to help get justice for him. And yet Mick was probably the most giving person I've ever met. I don't think there was a time that I ever asked him to do something and he wouldn't do it, no matter the cost or inconvenience to him. For the last years of his life, he's a teacher and would go above and beyond for the kids he taught, spending his evenings and weekends doing research for their art or literary projects. He never belittled, but encouraged. We got a message from a girl who knew my dad, but had never been taught by him. She said she remembered him because he would wait at the end of the corridors, holding the doors open for people. She wanted me to know that he was appreciated, not just for his job, but because of the person he was. He was a very talented photographer, always with a camera around his neck. And in recent years, he also took up pottery. And he said that he was happiest in the company of creative and imaginative people. He was renowned for his bright-coloured clothing. Purple, yellow and orange were key features of his wardrobe. This kind of makes him sound, though, a bit like he was a boring do-gooder, and he certainly wasn't that. Many people have written to me saying they remember the twinkle in Mick's eye. He had a quick, wicked and sharp sense of humour. He loved to pun, usually badly, and he was also quite vain and very proud of not looking his age. He would have laughed at the fact that the passerby phoning 999 after his accident described him as a man in his 50s. They were only about 15 years out. And he wouldn't have recognised the description of himself in the press as a pensioner, or even worse, elderly. He also had a strong sense of right and wrong, and wasn't afraid to tackle any injustices. Whether it was motorists getting too close to him on the road or policemen telling him off for taking photos of public buildings, he would calmly and politely argue his corner. And that's why we're so keen to fight his case and make sure that justice is served for him. Because it's not just about him, it's about all the other cyclists coming down the road after him, whose families might end up in the situation that we are in now. In the time since his death, I've heard similar horror stories of families trying to get justice for their relatives and failing because of the police or the CPS and the judiciary. And it sends a message that cyclists' lives aren't worth the same as other victims. And we've heard today that the police have referred the case to the CPS, which in itself is great news. But it shouldn't take this. It shouldn't take a year, and it shouldn't take this kind of political leverage to get that. It should be done automatically because it's the right thing to do. And whilst we're angry with the police for not seeming to take his death seriously, it's also not escaped our notice that if there'd been a segregated cycle lane here on Regent Street, one of London's busiest streets, then our battle with the justice system would never have happened. Mick would be here now. My aunt remembers cycling around Marble Arch and Shepherd's Bush with her young son many years ago, roundabouts we'd all think twice about now. We all run the peril of drivers on their mobile phones, surely diverting their attention from more other vulnerable road users. The dangers are many, and since Mick's death, there have been 14 more cyclists killed. 14 more lives cut short. 14 more families whose lives have been turned upside down, who have to face an empty chair where their loved ones once would have sat. And I'd like to finish by reading the names of those cyclists. Victor Manuel Ben Rodriguez, Leon Richards, Abdel Khalak Layani, Tafsir Butt, Lauren Patrick Cullinan, Henry Lang, Chris Tandy, Janina Galau, Asad Ahmed, David Blake, Stephanie Turner, Akis Kalaros, Federica Baldassa, and Claire Hittier Abadi.